Hello, everyone.
Oh, that means we're on.
It does.
Good morning or afternoon or middle of the night, depending on where you are. We've got a couple of things here. We've got an article which Evan's just posted, haven't you?
I have, yes.
And after my last effort of 800 words, which I was very proud of, wasn't I, Evan?
Yeah, you were. This one is not that.
It's 5,600 words. I couldn't help myself. I've done it once. People can't complain. I've done my short article. Now, let me tell you a little bit about that article. Then I want to tell you about our online conference that's coming up. The article's interesting insofar as it's written for the second Slater book. Now, the first one, we'll do a presentation in a couple of days because it's in the post right now, isn't it?
It's in the post and it's in that kind of processing period. So it should be available on Amazon and all the online booksellers.
And us.
And yeah, I'll get it up for our Australian and New Zealand customers.
And remember, if you're not Australia and New Zealand, don't bother.
Yeah, well, bother,
yeah, but
don't get them through us because it costs us way too much money.
It's going to cost you more than a book in postage, isn't it?
Oh.
Anyway, we won't talk about that for now. So that's coming out. Now, what we've always stood firm with this is that, yes, we're going to turn that into a book, and yes, we're going to charge money for it because Evan needs it, don't you, Evan? And so does Leo. And I need it a little bit too. And we won't go into the details for that. Just trust us. When I'm talking about Evan and Leo, they do need it. But in having said that, we also, for those people who say we're profiting, marketing is the word, isn't it, Evan?
Yeah.
I'm a marketer, aren't I?
No, you're not.
Yes, I am. The man said I was, and he criticised me.
We have to force you to do it kicking and screaming.
And look how well you've come out of my marketing. Look, you're really well off now. You and Leah are in so much money. You can't complain. I'm a marketer. My critic said so.
I roll around in wads of cash, basically.
Yeah, you do, basically. And my critic said I was, so it must be. But that article, that particular book that's coming up, this article, which is nearly 6,000 words, there's a chapter in there. And what I want to do very quickly is just show you, I'm going to hold something up here now. It's a land department notice, and it's a proclamation. And I'll read the proclamation to you because this is what some of this article is about. In accordance with the provisions of the Public Trust Act, 1897-1, the Right Honourable John de Vere, Baron Wakehurst, Governor of the State of New South Wales, with the advice of the Executive Council, do, by this notice, appoint the undermentioned gentlemen. By the way, no ladies.
Just gentlemen.
Just gentlemen. We don't have ladies at this time, but they can wash up.
I wish I had a name as long as that fellow.
What is it again? It's John de Vere, Baron Wakehurst. Don't you love that bit in the finish there? That's why he's the Governor General. And bodies as trustees. He appoints the undermentioned gentlemen and bodies as trustees, respectively, of portions of land herein particularised. And it's signed at Sydney on the 9th day of November 1939. And what's inside there, and I'll hold it up now, on the first page there's 3 or 4, and on the second page there's another, I think, 8 more, and one on the back, 13 in all. And it goes from 1929 to 1939. Now, of those 13 pieces of land that the government have decided to give to trustees, who would all be of the highest order, wouldn't they?
Oh, you don't just hand them out.
And you don't.
Willy-nilly to people just...
Oh, no, it doesn't go to anyone. I mean, it doesn't go to women, for starters, don't it? There's 52% of the population have been told to piss off. You're not part of this. And then, of course, if the rest is left over, I've checked, and we've done this, haven't we, Evan? The trustees are all what? Solicitors, accountants, architects. Every one of them is the top level. So these are really good people. Now, what's interesting is of those 13 papers, 2 pieces of land have been dedicated to, one of them is for the preservation of Aboriginal carvings, and the second one is for the preservation of Aboriginal carvings and drawings. Now, in it, underneath, they've nominated the trustees, and the first trustee in both of these is Professor Shell's here. It's quite a strange name to have, isn't it?
Shell's here. And Messrs.
And then Messrs. And the first Messrs. In both of them is Frederick Slater. And all the other people there are editors, solicitors, you name it, they're there.
I've heard of some of them before. McCarthy,
Yeah.
and Goddard,
Goddard
and Enright.
Yeah.
They're all people that hung around Slater, mind you.
All the time. And by the way, this is over 10 years. Now, what we're looking at there is we've been told by our critics of today that Slater's a piece of rubbish and doesn't amount to anything. In fact, I think one of the critics did a quote from the family, from someone who never was alive when this guy was alive, who said, I wouldn't give credit to anything he said, didn't he? Well, it's funny, he didn't give credit to anything he said, but the Governor-General in 1929 designated a place at Mount Yango. That was the first one. And Slater's name was second on the list. In 1939, Burragurra, which we're going to write about also, was put on the list. And why did they put it on the list? Because of the work that was done. And who did the work, Evan? Slater. Which is why, after Shell's here, which is an unusual name anyway, his name is first. He's the first of the Messrs., as we call them. Now, why was he first both times? Because he was working on those sites, and those other people sent the work to him, didn't they, to interpret?
Yes.
Now, what that says to me is the government are endorsing Slater's work, Slater's interpretation, and the people that Slater worked with over a 10-year period. But if you look at the critics of today, they'll tell you that Slater is nobody, a madman, a liar. Well, gee, that means that, what's his name again? John DeVere Baron Wakehurst thought he was pretty good, didn't he?
Yeah.
Picked him twice, didn't he? Now, ladies and gentlemen, we've put that in, and that's going into the second Slater book, which, by the way, we've just completed. But it's nowhere near ready, is it, Evan? Because Evan's got to go through it, and that's going to take more 3-4 weeks at least.
I just finished the last.
I know you did. Look, when you start, say this when you begin. Because what's got here, by His Excellence command, Colin A. Sinclair, Minister for Lands, is also involved in this. And then what do you say after that, Evan?
God save the king.
But well, it would have been the Queen. Back to King now.
Well, it was King because back then it would have been King George.
George, I think.
George.
Then Elizabeth. Now, this is before Elizabeth. And by the way, it's God save the king again. But ladies and gentlemen, the point I want to make is if he's a charlatan and a liar and a cheat, how come the government didn't think he was? In fact, why did they make him the trustee of every Aboriginal site that was granted over 10 years? He is the trustee of the only 2 sites marked in there. So that's going to be in the article, and there's quite a few other things. And what it is, it's an article, it's a chapter that goes near the end of the second book to validate basically Slater's claim that the sky heroes that the original people spoke about came from the stars. And it's a pretty radical claim. So we've put that in, and we've put in a lot of evidence, archaeological evidence, to back up what Slater claimed. We wanted to give proof, not just the sites he spoke about. And yes, we do write about Burragurra, but unfortunately Slater didn't go to some of our other sites like the Carry-On Glyphs, Bulgandry. Never went there, did he? Yeah. It's a shame because we would have had a proper reading of all of them. Yeah. But we do have a proper reading of Burragurra. And that's all about people that wear what Arnie Bev called hats, which we referred to as helmets. And she said, yeah, they are, but we call them hats. And why did they wear hats, Evan? Original people always wore hats when they first got here, didn't they? Yes. Everyone had those lovely visors on the front. Well, you know, some wore a Kubra when the cook turned up.
Maybe they have one of these. You never know.
Oh, that would have been good, yeah.
Nice Panama hat. Maybe that's what they were wearing.
No, Arnie Bev was talking about helmets, but they didn't have a word for helmets, but they had a word for hats. So what we've got in that article is archaeological validation that when Slater started talking about by army coming through the stars, and that his son flew back to the Southern Cross, and his wife was not born of the earth but born of the stars above. He wrote all those things, and people are going to say that's crazy. Well, it's not. We've put that in to back it up. So that's the first thing we've got in there. Unfortunately, for those of you who like a small read, can I suggest you do this one over a week? It's nearly 6,000 words, so you might want to break it up into little bits, which it's done, isn't it? We put them into about 9 different areas. So that's the first one done. And the second one we're talking about today, very quickly, is our next online conference, which I want to start by making the point once again for those who criticize us. You can come on the day and you can watch the whole thing for free. Now, if you don't come on that day and you want to watch the others, then you've got to become a member, and that's going to cost you grand amount of, what is it, 15 Australian dollars?
$15.99 Australian dollars, which is pretty useless compared to the other currencies. So if you live in another country that's not in Australia,
at the moment,
you're probably doing all right.
66 cents makes a US dollar at the moment.
Mind you, I don't know how the Canadian and NZ dollar's going.
I'll tell you where it is really good. Our dollar's worth about half a pound. What's a euro? Oh, the euros, it's really good if you're there. You'll probably get this for about half a coffee.
Yeah. So
in America, you might have to get a coffee and a bicky. That's what it would cost, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because it'd be about $10, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Just a little bit under 10 at the moment, because we're below 2/3 of the American dollar. So that would put it just under $10. I'm sure you might get 2 coffees. You probably have to get them from McDonald's, unfortunately, but it's possible. But now, ladies and gentlemen, what are we talking about this time, Evan? The one thing I swore we'd never talk about, didn't I?
Yeah, we've done a bit of that over the years.
Yeah, we have.
We keep on getting proven wrong. But Yowies. So
we're going to talk about Yowies.
Our friends overseas, the equivalent would be Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeti,
stink monkey.
I know it's skunk ape, which is Southern America.
Right.
As I've done a bit of research, every place
has one
or a version of one.
Yeah, they all do. They all have them. And of course, if you start talking about them, you're a raving idiot. The good news is we've been called that before anyway, haven't we?
Yeah, before this anyway. So
why not? Yeah. Why not? We're going to go down that path. And this time, what we're going to do is completely different to any presentation we've done before. Normally, we speak for 2 hours and we bring in one other speaker that speaks for about 1 hour and a quarter. Not this time round. We've got about 4 other speakers, haven't we, Evan?
We do.
Who do we actually have on that list there?
We have Sarah Bignall.
Yep.
We have Gary Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Buckingham and John Kershaw.
Now, why do we ask these people to come in? Because these people have been wandering through the bush. These are all people that are so committed to this. They spend their spare time and they get paid nothing for it, don't they? Looking for Yowies. Now, I know people make fun of this, but you've got to think about this. Why would all these people, and they're very intelligent people, and they're not idiots, why would they spend basically half their life dedicated to thinking about or looking for Yowies? Because they don't exist. That's why. That they don't exist. That's the simple reason behind it. Well, there's one problem with those people who say they don't exist. I know for a fact they don't live on the edge of a rainforest, do they?
Look, I mean, you can see a few trees actually. Yeah. See that back door there? See the trees?
That's all we have around here.
That is the rainforest.
Yeah, that's the rainforest. That's how close it is. We live in a rainforest. Now, the point I want to make here is we live in the largest stand of rainforest in Alstonville. And it is enough to carry a small set of clan. I don't know the full arrangements and how they do things of the Yowies, but the one thing we've learnt, and it's funny, we've done a couple of presentations and the people we've spoken to have all said we've never heard this before, haven't they? I thought Yowies were some sort of, I did think that to begin with. They were like a Neanderthal, a Denisovan. They were a group of hominids because there were 16 until 12,000 years ago that we know of at the moment. But by the end of the year, I swear to you, it'll be 18.
Yeah, at least another 1 or 2 will pop up.
Do you realise in 2002 there were 2, Homo sapiens and Neanderthal? That's 20 years ago. We had 2.
Right.
And they're still hanging on to the same theories that explain 2 when you've got 16.
Yeah. And
they're not including the Yowies. And nor should they, because here's the point with the Yowies. They were here before us. Now, the most amazing part of this story, and we are certainly going to be working on that a fair bit, is our understanding that the Yowies themselves are far more intelligent, advanced, magical, and aware than we are. They are our betters, not some sort of offshoot that's bigger and stronger, but dribbles and doesn't think much at all. It's the opposite. And that's the part that's thrown us the most. We've gone from, we're never going to talk about Yowies at all, And I remember the first time we saw Yowies heard them screaming at us, and we're standing about, 15 metres away. We forgot about them, didn't we?
Yeah.
We completely forgot about them. We stood there for 10 minutes. Evan, my other son, Morgan, my wife and I, and we stood there listening to this thing scream and yell, and we knew it was weird. We walked away and never spoke about it for another 10 years, did we? Never said another word. When they make noises, their noises have more than one, how can I put this, one purpose. One is to communicate. Another one is to influence. We know another type of noise they make that makes you instantly fearful. You get covered, and we've heard other people say the same thing, but not fearful like terrified, but you don't run away. You stay there. So it's a really weird setup. And we've had Yowies inside the house. We've had Yowies smashing things, well, not dropping things, throwing books in the bedroom, turning on lights, you name it. They've done all these things. And we're going to be talking about that. And I know that our many critics will be looking forward to it, Evan, they really will. You can just imagine what they're going to say about it.
They revel in it.
Do you know what I found out? Something that's just an aside. Graham Hancock, Evan, and did you do? He told me, he was contacting me recently and told me all the critiques he's had, and he's had a lot. Do you know his critiques are based on 3 pages of all the work he's ever done? They all refer to it. And do you know what it's about? In those 3 pages, Graham openly didn't want to go down the path, but he had to mention them because he believes they're real. He spoke about telekinesis, telepathy, and all those sort of psychic skills.
Oh, yes.
That is all Graham Hancock talks about, according to his critics.
He
mentioned it and said it was viable. And he said, I have to mention it.
Well, it is viable.
But that's what his critiques have been about. So luckily, because we're now emphasizing Yowies, they won't pick on us for that, Evan. They won't say bad about that. They'll just say, oh, yeah, Yowies, they're real. Yeah, we all know that. So, ladies and gentlemen, why are we talking about them? Because we found out so much more from down here and up there about them. And it's become really obvious to us that they are more powerful than we are. They have more wisdom than we do. And we're an embarrassment to them, but that's going to change. So we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to have the other Yowie researchers on to give their anecdotal stories of times they've been in the bush, what they've sensed, what they've felt, what they've heard. And bear one thing in mind. None of these people get any money whatsoever for doing this. You see, I know people are going to say they're mad, they're crazy, aren't they? Or they're making it up, right?
Yeah.
Well, if they're making it up and they're lying, don't lie for the sake of lying. You lie for the sake of a purpose.
Yeah.
So what do you get if you start telling people about Yowies? Derision? Sniggers? Money? No money for that.
No. Yeah.
And you know what Sarah has said, that one of the biggest problems with people who cite Yowies is them dealing with it because they can't tell anyone. Because if they do, they're going to say, oh, you're just bent, you're crazy. And that, she said, that's the biggest thing. She's become a counselor to an extent because some of these people are going through really, really traumatic times and they really don't know what's going on. I mean, you turn up and there's a thing running around that weighs 500 kilos, and we know it weighs about that. We've got proof about that. We'll talk. And it weighs 10, it's 10, 12, 15 foot high, and could knock your head off your shoulders with one swipe of its arm.
Yeah.
You do get affected. I mean, and my situation is I've been very brave when they've asked me and they've gone outside and they've knocked on the back door and they've called me over.
Literally.
I ran inside both times and hid and cowered. So I really don't understand why these other people who've seen the Yowies have been affected by that, Evan. I mean, after all, I knew what was there.
Yes.
And I knew they were knocking on the door, respectfully asking to come in, and I was still scared.
Yeah.
When you're walking in the bush and then one of these turns up, that's not the same as what we went through. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about Yowies. Sarah's going to talk about Yowies and all of the guests that Sarah has found. And Sarah does a show, which I'm sure she's going to talk about, and people should listen to it if you can, where she interviews people, and she's really done hundreds of people, hasn't she, Evan? She's like the go-to person for that. So we're going to be talking about that.
Yes.
And it's free. and it's chapter 29 or something, Evan. I can't remember now. I've done so many of them.
28.
28. And if you want to look at the other 27, you can. They're there for you to look at. And there's hundreds of hours of interviews on all these different topics. And it costs you round about a coffee and a bicky per month. Think about that too. But if you don't want to spend the coffee and the bicky and you want to have it on other things, we get that. And we cover that, and we don't pass judgment on it, do we, Evan? No, if you want a coffee, you can have one. Mind you, it's gone in 2 minutes. Ours go for a couple of hours, don't they, Evan?
Yeah,
You
definitely.
value for money there.
Yeah, you do.
We get about 3 or 4 hours per coffee or bicky. But, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't afford that, we don't pass judgment because that's why we're making it free. And that means to all our critics is say, I'm marketing this. This is a bad marketing for, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, nothing. We get nothing for that. So that's not a good idea. And as you know, as people may know, we have to pay other people to keep our website alive. So we're doing this backwards. But you're welcome to join us. It'll be a very interesting story. And as much as I hate to say this, but I have to, they've come to our back door. They've come to our front door. They've knocked on the windows. They've knocked on the doors and they've come inside. We don't have a choice. I mean, we talk about sites when we're invited there. We talk about elders when we get permission. But when they come to the back door, the front door, and every other door, and they come inside, go outside, yell out, make noises,
bang on the house,
chuck down books, talk in the bedroom all the time. Evan and I are at the stage now when we hear noises in our bedroom or people putting hands on us like that. We just think, oh yeah,
okay.
Yeah, fine, yeah,
right, yeah, sure.
No. Now, I guarantee if you were living in Sydney and your house was pitch black and it was 3 o'clock in the morning and you heard footsteps walking down the hallway there, or someone throwing books on the ground or pushing you or calling out, you might have your stomach roll over and feel like, my God, there's someone in here. Shock, fear, adrenaline pumping. We just think, oh, Jesus, would you please let me get to sleep? Because the worst part of this, because there's 2 types of Yowies, ladies and gentlemen. There's the big ones we know about that we talk about, and the ones we didn't know about until Uncle Donnie told us about them.
Yep.
And you, as an outsider, cannot question Uncle Donnie's take on this. He is one of the keepers of the Yowies and their history and their welfare and their existence. He understands it fully, and he was the one who told us there are the Yowies that walk and the etheric ones that can make their way through spirit form.
So what you can do,
yes,
I'll just put this up. You can go back into the archives.
Yes.
And you can go down to on this link here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just put
I have no idea what you're doing.
So this link here, and you go down to chapter, let me see, 20, down a little bit, 22, chapter 22. And you click on that and you can see our first online conference that we did about Yowies, and we've got Uncle Donnie there and Sarah. So if you want to do a bit of homework and watch our first
conference, is free?
That one's a one-off. They can pay just for that one conference.
Oh, okay.
Just that one if you don't want to subscribe.
Yeah.
And it gives you a bit of a...
And there context. You'll get Uncle Donnie, because we really couldn't do this until we had an elder kick this off. And Sarah was with us, and then Sarah's brought on her mob next. It's like her tribe. That's the way we do things around here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know that some people, I know most people think that the idea of talking about Yowies is academic suicide. Well, they're correct, it is. But don't worry, we were academically suicidal quite some time ago, weren't we?
Oh, I'd say it's happened several times, is it not?
So the point is, and this is the major point, you can't suicide us or vilify us or insult us because it's already been done. There's nothing left. We are a lost cause. So we decided we're going to continue down that path. And I will guarantee you we'll probably do another one further down the line.
Yeah.
Because that story with the Yowies is ongoing with us. They're back around here again. They left for about 6 months, didn't they?
Yeah.
Because food was getting scarce, and now they're back again. I can hear them singing outside. Most mornings I hear them doing the hooting.
Oh, okay.
Always 3 seconds between every hoot. If you want to know if a Yowie's outside, time the calls. And you'll find it's identical every time. But we'll talk about that too on the day. For now, ladies and gentlemen, we wish you well, and hopefully you'll join us on the weekend. It could be Saturday for those people who live in anywhere else in the world. It's normal, and if you happen to live in Australia and New Zealand, it's Sunday. And I think there's a few other places, but we don't get many people from Japan, do we? I don't know. Well, at the moment we don't. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to join us, please come along, and we'll do. I don't know how long it's going to go. It might be a little bit longer because we have basically 6 segments. We're going to cut ours down from 2 hours to 1, and of course we will do an interview with Mesref on his take on the Yowies, which I'm going to start writing up the questions for Leah to ask him tonight. And I'll get that to her in the next day or two. And then we'll hear what he's got to say and what the aliens think of Yowies. But I can tell you now, they respect them more than us. They also fear them more than us, don't they?
Yeah,
They do fear them more than us. And they don't mind dissing us a bit, but they don't diss Yowies, do they?
Exactly.
If you want to move if you want to move aliens from your farm, and we've done that, haven't we? Call a Yowie in. As soon as a Yowie turns up, Yowie stays, aliens go.
Yeah, no, interesting night. Anyway, we will see you all.
You'll talk about that night, won't you?
Yeah. We'll see you all on the weekend.
Yep, definitely. Okay, thanks for
Until
joining
then.
us. Bye.
Bye.